There we go. So, as usual, having a deep sense of gratitude as we begin our practice. When you close your eyes, let's just take a moment to settle yourself down. If you've been busy, if you've had a feeling of fatigue or kind of burning the candle at both ends, or anything that is kind of pulling you away from resting in presence. And that can be things that are happening physically, but also mentally and emotionally. So, whatever's happening, see if you can drop your attention and use the training that you've cultivated over the years of the mind to come home and rest inside the breath and inside the body. And start by noticing your physical body. Is there anything that's drawing your attention first that you could tend to in some way? Maybe adjusting your posture or just making a little note. Oh, I need to make sure I hold that part of my body in some good sacredness today. Also, notice if there's any place that you're not sensing in your body. So, as you start to feel from the crown down, kind of moving through your skull and your ears and your jaw and your face and the base of your skull and your neck. And I won't keep going, but you keep going, where we have this sense of kind of noticing all the parts of ourselves. As you take a little time to check in with your somatic awareness, notice as you trail through the body with your mind if there's some place that's a little hidden or not so front and center in your awareness. And these also can be places that you kind of make a little mental note to create some vibrancy, some aliveness in these places in your body. So you continue scanning all the way down. Maybe you're at your pelvis. Maybe you're all the way to your feet already. So you are. Once you have kind of touched each part of your body, let's come to the breath now and feel the full inhale and the full exhale. Notice if your breath has been a little lazy this morning, if you haven't had a deep vibrancy to your breath. Is there something you can do now to change your posture or your shape so that the breath is comfortable in its fullness? And tend to the emotional body. What are you sensing in your emotional states this morning? Do you have a brightness or a heaviness? Is there anything in particular that you are working with and noticing? So, kind of sense just along the same lines as your physical body, if there's something that you need to tend to here, whether it's to just breathe and let emotions move through you, or if there's something you need to nurture within you, just be self supporting. And go deeper still to the deeper layers of the koshas, where we find this deep inner space where unconsciousness, our subconsciousness resides. See what you can do with that sense of the heart space opening and tending to the sense of trust. All the while letting the breath move through all these layers, that we are not, segmented nesting dolls in all these separate parts of ourselves, but recognize as you breathe the fluidity and the melding of all these parts of ourselves. When you're ready, place your hands together at your heart. Bow in, offer an intention for yourself. What do you need from your practice today? Release your hands and let's find our way onto our back. To me, one of the greatest joys of doing yoga at your home instead of a group setting, there's so many joys to doing yoga in a group setting. But one thing that's gained by being in your own presence is truly you hopefully do not get distracted by anybody else's practice where you can really feel your way into what's happening for you and modify and change anything and everything. Maybe your entire practice is lying in shavasana and breathing and really being present with your breath. Maybe your practice follows what I've got on tap today. Maybe you go off on your own little streams along the way, and I hope you do. Um, I hope that over time you really cultivate what it is that you need in your body today. All right, so if you're following me, let's stretch, reach the arms overhead, and just enjoy that sense of the awakeness that happens when we reach into space. And this is more than just stretching muscles. We're finding our sense of space, where we are in space. So we're making ourselves bigger and grander and taking up more room. And this is like a treat for our proprioception to sense where we are. All right, bring your knees into your chest and let's rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. All right, and then hang on to the knees and let's kind of circle here where we're really giving that low back a little bit of a massage. Like I said, we're going to kind of draw our attention toward that back body a little bit today. So just see what this feels like to have a few rounds of just letting your low back find ease on the ground. Change directions and move the other way. So we just feel a nice sense of relaxation in the low back. And if this doesn't work for you, if this is a move that aggravates your back, then by all means do something different. All right, and then we'll hang on to both knees and open up away from the middle and bring them back in. So we just feel the movement of our hip joints. Kind of notice for yourself whether you're symmetrical or not, if the sensation or movement pattern is equal left and right or different. All right, and then put your left foot on the ground and we're going to come into half happy baby pose. And you can hold with just your right hand or you can hold with both hands and just give a good compression of drawing your knee down toward the ground. We're keeping our left foot planted. And then cross that right foot over to the left knee, like a reverse pigeon pose, but we're not lifting our leg up. The left foot staying on the ground. And open your arms out like a T and just go left and right here with your hips, or with your knees, I should say. So we're just kind of opening up our hip in within the external rotation. So anytime you've got some stuff going on with your low back, it's important to tend to the whole pelvis and all the ways that the pelvis interacts with other bones. So not just your spine, but your legs too, your hips. All right, and then draw that right knee back in, pick up your head and give a little snug hug into that knee. And then stretch your right leg straight, arms overhead, reach into the body, the left foot still on the ground. And then when you're ready, left knee comes into your chest and give it a big hug. Let's roll around in your ankles and wiggle your toes so you can feel into that mobility and freedom that your feet love to have. It's such a treat to take your socks and shoes off. I know your feet appreciate this. All right, and then put that left foot down onto the ground. Join your right foot next to your left foot, so you're hip width apart with your knees up in the air, feet on the ground. Windshield wiper your knees left and right. Breathing deeply and just letting ease happen across your back. Nothing, try to use the minimal amount of work needed to get the job done, where we're just easing up our back. Right. Go ahead and plant 2 feet on the ground for a moment. Just feel this position. Draw your knees down into your pelvis a little bit here. And then we'll draw our left knee into our chest. And let's hang on to your left foot and come into a half happy baby pose on this side. The right foot is bent. The right knee is bent. The right foot is on the ground. So even if you typically do this pose with your legs straight, ease up on your low back and your pelvis. Keep your knee bent. And then let's go ahead and cross the right foot on top of the left foot on top of the right knee. And don't pick up your right foot. So we're not going into a full reverse pigeon pose. And just allow some movement. Maybe you want to drop left and right a little bit. Maybe you want to circle in your hip. So just kind of find what is available in your hip joint here. And notice the impact on your low back. You know, when we move our hips, we have an impact in the low back. So what's happening? All right, and then release. Draw your left knee into your chest. Stretch your right arm overhead. Lengthen through the right side now. Give a good squeeze into that knee. And then let's switch sides. Right knee into your chest. Left leg long on the ground and roll around in your ankles. Wiggling through your toes. Getting some of that mobility to happen. Breathing deeply. All right, 2 feet onto the ground, arms out to the sides. Lift up your hips, scoot them over to the right. We're going to bring our knees up and drop them to the left. And just take a moment to feel your way into your twist. If you want to move your arm around, move your arm around. If you want to turn your head back and forth or keep it still, do that. So just always remember, sometimes movement in the beginning of practice is better than a static hold of a stretch. You know, we tend to get a little bit more out of our fascia if we're mobilizing in the beginning instead of holding a stretch. Knees back up, shift your hips over to the other side, drop your knees down. And then same, turn your head to the left, and maybe your head is turning left and right. Maybe your arm is doing some movements, your left arm is doing some movements. Maybe you want to be still. So always following what your body wants. Noticing the spine here. Noticing the breath. All right, and then let's reach out into space, stretching your limbs, roll around in your wrists and your ankles, maybe open and close your fists or wiggle your fingers. And then when you're ready, knees draw into your chest. All right, put your right foot onto the ground, keep hugging your left knee in, snug hug. And then release that head down onto the ground. Take the soles of the feet together for a moment. Supta Baddha Konasana. You can always take your blocks and stick them underneath your knees if you feel like you need that. And just have a moment. Just have a moment to open up into your breath, to feel the weight of your body drop down. Remember, there's no agenda. You don't have to, when you enter into your yoga practice, you don't have to feel like, oh, I have to make sure I click off the boxes of doing all the standing poses and the forward bends and the back bends. And we try to touch into all parts of the body every time we step into the mat, but it doesn't have to always be the same. And you can, when's the last time you did a practice with no dog poses? It's been a while for me for that, but you don't always have to follow the same rhythms. All right, so reach outward into your starfish again. Exhale, draw your knees into your chest. Pick up your head. Now put your head down onto the ground and keep your knees snugged up. And we're going to wake up our core a little bit here. So right knee hugs in, left leg straightens, hover it off the ground, and switch sides. So nice and steady as we go. So we're just feeling our core gently turn on. And notice as you engage your core and you draw your navel down toward your spine, if you can get that feeling of, oh, this feels good, my core is helping my back, that activating all these 360 muscles around my torso is actually very supportive and nourishing to your low back. How's your breathing? All right. Then put your feet onto the ground and grab your smushy ball. Okay. We're going to come up onto the smushy ball like a bridge pose. And again, if anything doesn't feel good, you're modifying, you're doing something different. If you don't have a smushy ball, put a low block under your pelvis. But what's nice about this smushy ball is that there's a dynamic nature to it, and we have to balance. So it turns on subtly a lot of the pelvic muscles, where we tend to get sleepy, we start to turn on. And these muscles, when they're activated and ready to go and adaptive at any moment, this is what protects our low back. How's your breath? So a little bit more core work. We're picking up the feet now. Knees are over our pelvis. If this is too hard, keep your feet down and you're going to lift one knee up at a time. Let's all start there. Put your feet back down. So I want you to go super slow. We've done this before, but as your right knee lifts up, notice all the compensation in your pelvis and in your legs. And then right foot comes back down. Go so slow where you can really feel all that has to engage to keep yourself stable on that ball. Lots of intrinsic pelvic floor and core work here. Notice if your head wants to do all the work. See if you can relax your neck and shoulders. Keep yourself breathing. All right, now you can stay doing that if that felt like a good place for you to be with your back and your balance. Or you can pick up your feet, and so now your knees are over your hips and your legs are at a right angle. Be very mindful to not overburden your upper body. So we're not anchoring with our arms and our head. We're feeling the anchoring from our core. Right? So now we drop the heel, right heel drops down, touch the ground, and pick it back up. And then go to the other side. And again, minimizing our wobbles as best as you can. Minimize your wobbles. Notice your breathing. Try to keep the work in the core of the body and in the pelvis and the legs, the hip flexors, the inner thighs, the pelvic floor, the transverse abdominis. All these muscles are working, but that doesn't mean our traps have to do the work. Okay, so keep your neck and shoulders and your head nice and soft. Keep breathing. After you finish on the left side, put your feet back down onto the ground and just notice what just woke up. Do you have that kind of warm wake up feeling in your core, in your pelvic floor, maybe around your hip joints? Just sense what just got woken. And now, just like we had a moment of Supta Konasana, have a moment on this ball where you just melt. Let your back and your pelvis and your hip flexors all deeply relax. And then we're going to pick up our pelvis, come off of that ball, and put your block between your thighs. And this will be the last of the kind of waking up the core of the body, which will help us when we do some core bends soon. We want to have an active core when we do this. So I have the block on my knees at the middle height. You can put it higher, lower, different widths. Just find what feels comfortable to you. Upper body deeply relaxed. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, ground the outer feet and hug the block. Turn on some of those deep core muscles. Release on your in-breath and engage on your out-breath. So that transverse abdominis, that belly muscle that wraps around your whole core. See if you can feel the lower fibers, like from between your navel and your pubic bone. See if you can feel all the fibers there engaged, transverse. Okay, so from hip bone to hip bone, drawing in toward the center. This is also an area where we tend to get a little sleepy. We tend to rely on our upper abs a little bit more than our lower abs. And, keeping these woken up will help your back. All right, and then relax that. Windshield wiper your knees. Someday, I know we haven't done it in a very long time, but someday we'll do a whole practice and never get up off the floor. Those are fun, when you just stay in this grounded, close to the ground area. But enough for now. Now we're going to come up. So roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. And notice, we've been on the ground for a while, so pay attention to what it feels like to come up off the ground. We're still pretty low, but notice the shifting in your mind, in your awareness of your space around you, and also in the orientation of your body to that space. Let's start moving through some cat-cows, arching and rounding the spine, and just taking notice. See what it feels like to move your shoulder blades toward each other, and then to move your shoulder blades apart, to feel all the ribs spread out, and then maybe the ribs spread out in the front of your bodies. Notice, besides just the obvious of your back, your low back or your spine. See if you can feel your pelvis doing some movement. And then as you're ready, go ahead and wag your tail. Okay, so be a fish. So you're swimming through the sea. It's a side body movement. Let that tail wagging ease up your low back, kind of getting some movement in those deep low back muscles. And then settle back towards child's pose. Walk the hands forward and let the fullness of your low back open up. You can take your knees as close or as far as you want. You can rock or you can be still. See if you can let the breath travel through the whole length of your spine.
Here, Otis.
Breathing deeply.
Otis, come here. Kitty.
Feeling that extension. Walk your hands over to one side or the other for a side body stretch. And then as you do this, see what it feels like to have a deep sense of openness in the breath, where we're, filling, emptying. And then come to the other side and stretch and lengthen through there. Relax through your skull. Open up through the rib cage. Get your seat to drop. All right, come back up to all fours. And now move your spine again. Any which way you want. Maybe you're doing some rolling in your ribs or your hips. Maybe your head's moving around. Anything that feels good. Notice how nice it is to focus on your back in this way. All right, a full twist. Left arm reaching up to the sky. Exhale, drop that shoulder down and twist to the side. Gaze toward the ground. Breathing deeply. And inhale, bring that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground, switching sides, arm up. Slide that arm under. Gaze toward the ground, deepening your breath. Noticing every little nook and cranny you can find. And then reach that arm all the way back up again, hand down onto the ground. As you come to a dog pose, let's pay attention to the fullness of your body. So this is our first pose where we're reaching off the ground a little bit more. So notice the change. Take some time to pedal your feet and feel into the fullness of the backs of your legs. So, kind of opening the whole posterior chain now. We've done a little work of opening the low back. Now we're going to end the upper back. But now we're going to feel your hips and your legs and your shoulders all the way to your hands.
Feel the rooting, feel the rising. If you are done pedaling, see what it feels like to stretch the toe mounds down deep into the ground and then pull your heels away from there and drop them down toward the ground. And at the same time, lift up through your sit bones. Engage your quads, lift your femur bones up into the hip sockets. And then walk your feet forward and come to Uttanasana. Fold deeply. Feel free to shake and shimmy, whatever feels nice. Okay, maybe a little bouncing, what feels good. All right, finding a halfway lift. We're gonna extend here and open up through the sides of our body. I want you to take a good deep pedaling of your feet while we're here. Drop one knee. You can even cross it past the midline to the other side so that your outer hips get a nice big open stretch in this pose. Kind of allowing our low back to have some of that good motion through this posture. Breathing well. All right, and then find a grounded Uttanasana again. Fold deeply, let your knees relax. Inhale for a halfway lift. And then we're gonna come bring our hands onto the tops of your thighs. Press your femur bones down, 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 like a little bit of a chair pose. We're gonna just pulse here a few times. Turn on the backs of your legs. So rooting through your feet, feeling your hamstrings and your glutes. Kick into gear a little bit. The weight of our hands rooting our thighs. Finding your breath. All right, and then stand all the way up. Bring the arms to the sky, opening up, lean back a little bit if it feels good. Maybe a cactus through your arms, kind of checking with that back body, open things up. Reach and extend again, and then release your hands down. Give your hands a shake. And then we'll do, this twist that we often do, which is so good for the back, for our spine. Okay, so your arms don't have to be straight out. They can be down lower or up higher. Let your hips turn. Come up onto your toes when you twist. So you're not keeping that heel down. You're lifting it up and letting your pelvis go with your spine. Let your eyes go with your spine, your head, everything going in the same direction. Fill up your breath. All right, and we'll come back to neutral and just pause here for a moment. Here we are, standing up now. Notice the fullness of your breath. Full inhale. A complete full exhale. Do you feel better than when you stepped onto your mat this morning? Do you have a greater sense of embodiment? Are you more supple and alive and aware of your body? Okay. Inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky. And then exhale and floating forward. Halfway lift, gathering some length, melt and fold. Step our left foot back, right foot is in front, lunge. Open up the fronts of those hips. Okay. Back and forth here, straightening the front leg, and then coming into a lunge. Feel free, if you want, to start feeling that full back line open up. Lift your toes and tuck your chin. Then you straighten your leg and then return back to a lunge. You don't have to do that, and your leg doesn't have to go all the way straight either. You just find what's available in your body. All right, onto a lunge. You can put your back knee down on the ground if you prefer. You can also, depending on what your toes are doing and your knees are doing, you can also keep it back up. We're gonna come into a twist. Inhale, reach that arm up to the sky, right arm up to the sky, shoulders away from the ears. Finding breath. And then release your hands back down. Ground yourself again. Inhale, coming up, crescent lunge. as you reach up toward the sky, for today, I have my back heel down on the ground today because my toe hurts. But you can either have your heel down or your heel up. Severe one's always an option instead of crescent lunge if that's better for your body on any given day, whether you need the grounding or it's difficult to be on your toe. Full breaths. And then release your hands down. Back foot comes forward. A deep forward foot bend. A halfway lift. Extending through the body. Exhale. And now let's step the right foot back. Left foot is in front. Come to a lunge on this side. Hands on blocks or the ground. And let's start to move when you feel ready. Straightening the front leg. Opening up those hamstrings. Straightening or bending the knee and opening up the hip flexors. All right, so feel free if you want to pick up your toes and tuck your chin. Feel free to ignore me. How's your breath? Can you feel that whole back line opening up a little bit? All right, ground yourself. Feel your roots. We're going to come to a twist. Right hand can be on a block or on the ground, however you feel good in this pose. And your back knee can come down on the ground or your back knee can be lifted. So find your path. Shoulders away from the ears. Twist the rib cage. Stay rooted and grounded through that left whole foot. Lift your right thigh. Wide sit bones. Drop your left sit bone down a bit. Exhale, come back, ground your legs, feel your roots, and then inhale to rise up to crescent lunge. All right, so feel your ribs lift off your pelvis. See what it feels like to have this extension through your spine. So we're not collapsing and shrinking. We're pushing off the ground and reaching. Back to a dog pose, hands on the ground, step that front foot back and feel that fullness again. Breathing deeply. Let's take our feet a little wider so we can reconnect with that pelvic floor and the deep low belly. Let it relax on your inhale so you have this full, deep, full breath. And then come forward into a plank. Engage your full core. Shoulders away from the ears. Root into the ground with your hands. Find your breath. And then you can put your feet on the ground or your knees on the ground. Come to the earth. Roll the shoulders a few times. Inhale for a cobra pose. Big open front body. Exhale. Melting down. Any variation of your choice. All right, come up on tall fours. Wag your tail again. And you can be on fists or hands. We're going to shift your hips all the way over to one side. Opening up that outer hip a little bit. And then shift your hips all the way over to the other side. And then back to center. Let's take our right leg straight up in the air. Okay. Engage through your core. Press the ground with your shin in your hands. And then reach the other arm up in the air so you feel that strength along the backside of your body. And then put that hand and knee down onto the ground, switching sides. Lift the left leg, engage your core, press your hand and shin, reach your other arm up. Feel that full line of the back body from shoulder to heel, hand to heel. Exhale and relax. Come into child's pose and settle your hips back down toward the heels and just open up your back. Maybe you want to rock a little bit. Back up onto all fours. Take your right foot straight back behind you, cross over and turn and look out at your foot. So we're opening up through that deep low back muscle. Through your side, breathe well. And then come back to center. Change sides, foot straightens, cross that left foot over the right leg, turn and look at it. All right, relax. We're gonna come all the way up. We have one more standing thing to do, and then we're gonna come down and do some deep stretches for our back body. So come up to stand and just notice how is your back feeling right now? You know, are you in a good place? And let's first just have a little vibration. This is really good for your spine. Okay, so we're just bouncing. You don't have to jump. You can jump if you're in a jumpy mood. But just let feel as though like, like there's a vibration going through your whole spine, kind of feeding some input to your discs that they have to do their job of cushioning you, right? Engage your core, a little bit of bent knees, so we're not doing this with locked legs. Just giving some feedback all through your spine. All right, and relax. Find your breathing. We're gonna come into a halfway lift, and you can do this with blocks. You can also do this on a piece of furniture. So I want you to get the feeling that your femur bones are lifting up and back. So we feel a lot of space in the front of our hip joints. Finding breath. Feel the extension of your spine. Engage your core a smidge so that you're not just falling. Femur bones up and back, a little bit of core. Feel the whole back line open up. And then take a step forward. We're going to come down onto our back, and you need your strap. So we'll do the whole Supta Padangusthasana sequence, which to me is such a pleasure. You know, it's such a joy to take the time in your day to do some just deep stretching. And we can get so caught up with getting the job done, whatever that means, whatever the job is. And we can forget to just kind of luxuriate in our bodies. You know, oftentimes we have rest in our bodies where we sit and read or do whatever, but to have activity, you know, to actively be engaged with opening your body up in a restful way is such a gift for the mind body. All right, so let's first draw your right knee into your chest. Left foot is on the ground. Nice and gentle here. Heavy head. And then we're gonna put your foot in the strap. Keep your left foot bent for a moment so we just have a nice neutral pelvis. And see what it feels like to have your femur bone. So your strap on the foot can give a little weight. So you can feel that root all the way down to your femur bone into the earth. And then move the head of the femur bone, just like we were doing in the pose we just did standing. Move it away from your shoulders. So there's a lot of spaciousness in the hip joint. Feel the extension of the spine. Flex your toes, lift your heel. And now, if you so choose, you can straighten your left leg. And just notice what changes if you do that. You don't have to do that. You don't ever have to do anything. Full breaths. Relax your shoulders. That's why we're holding the strap, so your shoulders can be at ease. And if having your elbows up makes your shoulders tense, undo the strap enough where your elbows are closer toward your body. Just find a pathway. Now we're going to take the strap into our right hand, and we're going to open the right leg out to the right. Now, be very mindful if you have hamstring issues, you know, if you have some tearing of your hamstrings at the sit bones or have had a history of that, be very mindful of this pose. Try not to overdo. Again, grounding through your torso, a little bit of core. It doesn't have to be everything you got, but a little bit of core, a feeling of stability through the right side of your body. Then inhale, lift that leg up, and let's cross the right leg over to the left. You can stick the heel of your right hand in that hip crease and press your femur bone away. The action we've been trying to do this whole time of keeping the femur bone away from the shoulder. Notice if your foot just kind of falls into a place. Stretch through your foot, press out through the entire toe bed. Release and rest your head and shoulders. And this pose can go as deep as you want. You know, if you're like, oh, I want to go all the way into a deep spinal twist, then by all means. And then we'll lift that leg up. We're going to join 2 feet in the strap now, femur bones away from your shoulders. So feel one of the beautiful things about doing forward bending poses with your back on the ground, it's very protective because your spine is working with gravity to elongate. You know, you're not having compression down on your spine like when we're sitting. So it's a safe, beautiful way to try to move into these forward bending poses without our low back don't tend to collapse as much when we're on our back. All right, let's switch sides. So right foot on the ground, left foot in the strap. So if you do forward bends like Supta, what am I saying? Like Paschimottanasana or something, which we're going to do next. If that bothers your back, you know, if you feel like you can't figure out the forward folding without straining your low back, these are the good options to be on your back. It allows you to open up the back line of the body without vulnerability as much in your low back. Root the femur bone deep down, rise up into your foot into that strap. Have a little tug on the strap so you feel that and all the way into your hip joint. Soft shoulders, relax your neck and head. Fill up your breath. Toes point down, heel is reaching up. And let's cross, or not cross, let's take the left leg out to the left. So hold the strap in the left hand. And I have my right foot on the ground. Of course, you can straighten your right leg at any time. You can also keep your right knee bent the whole time. So whatever works for your body. Again, being mindful of the hamstrings, being mindful of, you know, where you're feeling the stretch, try to get into the belly of your muscles. Melt your neck and shoulders. Root your whole right side down into the ground. A little bit of core here. Lift that leg back up. Take the strap into the right hand. Cross the left leg over past the midline and find however deep you want to go. Maybe you're wanting to go into a really deep full spinal twist, and that is what feels good in your back. Maybe kind of focusing on your hip is better for your body. So just see what feels good. You can put your left hand in the hip crease and press it away. Breathe deeply. Be very active through your foot. Try not to collapse your foot. Just that leg straight up in the air. Go ahead and lower your leg down. Find a moment of lying down straight. Check in with your back. Sometimes when you do deep forward folding poses, it's hard to lay flat. So if that's the case, let's all bend our knees and just see what that feels like. Is there ease that happens when you bend your knees for your spine? So always know, you know, kind of how to come out of poses. It may not be good for you to go right into a straight leg variation after what we just did. Okay, we're going to do this pose on our back, and then we're going to come up and do it seated. So kind of like a lying down Paschimottanasana, 2 feet in the strap. And you can, if you want to, I have a loop around my feet so that my inner feet have the capacity of here. let me show this to you. Just in case you've not done this before, so have the strap, and then with each part of the strap, cross it over the top of your foot, over your arch, and then over the bottom of the foot again. So this way, when you pull on the strap, your inner feet rise up instead of getting squashed. All right, so feel your femur bones drop. Let the gap of your low back happen. So we shouldn't be smushing our low back into the ground, but engage your core to stabilize. And see what it feels like with the neutral spine to elongate your spine. Soft shoulders. Focus on how much your spine can stay long in this pose and not collapse in any way. All right, take the strap away, soles of the feet together, rest in a Supta Baddha Konasana for a moment. If that's not comfortable for your back, feet on the floor, knees up, so that you're just having a restful posture for a moment. All right, bend your knees out if they're not already there, and windshield wiper your knees left and right. And you can go as deep into this as you want. If you want to deepen the twist and kind of swing your leg over, you can do that too. Just kind of find what it is your body's wanting to release. All right, and then we'll roll over to our side and come up to sit on a blanket. All right, so the blanket part I think is really important because oftentimes when we come into seated forward bends, we tend to roll our pelvis back, and this puts a lot of pressure on our lumbar spine. So sitting on the edge of a blanket helps you tip the pelvis forward. So we'll do Janu Shirshasana first, and then Urdhva Konasana. So one-legged, foot up against your inner thigh. If your knee is not happy, take that left knee on a block, right leg is straight. Wrap the strap around your foot. Be very gentle in this pose. So think about the spine. Think the leg will stretch. You probably don't have to think about it too much for it to happen, but it's very easy to collapse our spine to get more out of our hamstrings. So instead, reach upward, pull back a little on the strap to give you some strength for your back body. Root the femur bone down, lift and lengthen, and only then come forward. Engage your core to support your back. Full breaths here. We're gonna come on up and take that leg out to the side, stretching into a side bend, engage your core. So we're not falling, we're reaching and we're supporting. Don't worry about how far into this pose you go. See if you can imagine a deep weight, like a 10-pound weight on the left hip, dropping it down toward the ground. Okay, come back up, bring that foot forward, switching sides. Okay, left foot is in the strap. You can always support underneath your right knee with a block if you need it. Right foot is on the inner thigh of the left leg. Lift and lengthen. Hold the strap to give you some strength for the back body to rise. The spine is long, the core is engaged. As you come forward, we do this with a healthy, long spine, not collapsing, not pushing our lumbar spine out behind us. We're in that neutral curve. Engage the core to support the lumbar spine as we lengthen up and forward. Root the femur bone. How's your breath? There's a lot to think about. How's your breath? Right, come back up. Take the leg out to the side. Hang on to that strap. Reach up with your right arm. Maybe you're just straight up. Maybe you're tipped a little bit. Imagine that deep weight on the right hip. Sometimes I start this with my hand on my thigh to kind of just give that sensation of a little bit of weight. How's your breath? Relax the shoulders, root the femur bone. And then come back up. All right, so legs out in front of us. I want you to be so very mindful. I think if there's any forward bend that aggravates people, it's this one. So you can always just skip this if you're like, my back doesn't like this pose. But let's see if we can do that same thing with our feet. So we're going to take the strap across the bottom of your feet and then a loop around the front of your foot to the inner foot and then under your foot so that the strap comes back toward you on the outside of your foot and you have a loop on each foot. I like doing this with my feet hip width apart. You can do this, differently if that's better for you, a little closer or farther. Make sure you're on that blanket, tip the pelvis, lift the spine, pull the strap so you have some support for your back. Lengthen upward, engage your core, press your femur bones down and lengthen forward. Think not at all about going down. Okay? So the healthier version of this pose is to rise up. Get all the space in your spine you can, engage your core to support that space, and then come forward, heart toward toes. So only if you feel super duper safe do you want to even, just rest your upper back and your head a little bit. But so much pressure can go onto the lumbar spine if you collapse in this pose. So be so mindful as you go deeper. Stretching out through the big toes and the inner heels. And then come on up. Sit cross-legged. We'll reach the right arm up in the air, exhale, and twist to the left. A full breath. Come back up. Another full breath. Hand to the outer knee, twisting the spine. What will we do without yoga? Think about how much movement you've just done in your body to create a sense of suppleness. All right, soles of the feet together away from your body. So we're not doing Baddha Konasana. We have our feet pushed away. So there's a square or a diamond shape in between our legs. A long spine, elbows engage onto the knees, press them down, let your hips open. Now, again, it's so easy to collapse and fall and push the lumbar spine out backwards. Engage your core, lengthen the spine so that you're supported as you come forward and open up the hips. The more you press, the deeper the hip stretch. Come back up. Come onto your back. Now, I would have a bolster or some blankets underneath your knees, but first we're just going to go the other way with our pelvis a little bit to neutralize before Shavasana. So have everything ready for Shavasana. And we're going to take a block, low height of the block, stick it underneath. You can use that ball like we did in the beginning if you prefer. So whatever makes you feel more of a release. We're just going to, just in case there was a little smushing of the vertebrae and the discs posteriorly, we're just going to find a little bit of that anterior lift. Breathe well. Countering the back bend or forward bends with just a little smidge of a back bend. Full breaths here. Now to your head, relax the shoulders. When you're ready, take that block out of there and find Shavasana. So support underneath your knees feels really good after a forward bending practice. So I would recommend some support of, at least a blanket, maybe more underneath your knees. If you have a bolster, great. All right, so once you get comfortable, melt your body. Do that scanning like we did in the beginning, where you just start at the top and work your way down and melt everywhere you have access to. Anything you find, let it go. Anything you become aware of, surrender. Our body a little bit. Feel your way into your breathing. Whatever kind of movement feels really good. And when you are ready to come to your side, take a moment there and curl at the ball and allow that whole spine open up posteriorly. So a little bit of a curve and a curl, everything we were avoiding trying to do in the forward bends, let it naturally happen now. Actually, find yourself coming to a seat. There's no rush. If you're really enjoying being on your side, just stay there for as long as you'd like. To find a comfortable seat and bring your hands together at your heart. Fill your breath all the way, empty it fully. And let's offer our practice the energy we cultivate, the centering we achieve. Let's see if we can give this energy outward to one person, to the whole world, anything in between.
Namaste. All right, thank you, everyone.